Thank you for joining us today and welcome back to WAMS Webinar Wednesdays. Kathleen Kvitek, WAMS Director of Training, joins us to dive in and explain the 3 Microsoft products reaching end of life in January of 2020, the 14th to be exact, and we are going to hit you with the need to knows. Now, for those unfamiliar or those of you just joining the series, I'll share a little bit about us. WAMS has been providing law firms and businesses with computer consulting and support services since '74. We continue our reputation for quality and service today by installing and proactively maintaining computer systems as well as providing technology solutions for hundreds of law firms and businesses. So today we will cover, first of all, the Microsoft products reaching end of life, what exactly this whole end of life craze means, why it affects you, some common misconceptions, and then some keys to a successful upgrade. If you have any questions, please send them to info@wamsinc.com. That is info@wamsinc.com, and we will address them quickly after the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, some of these products that are reaching end of life. The main 3 reaching end of life on January 14th of 2020, Windows Server 2008, Windows 7, and Exchange 2010. Now, to clarify, end of life is the date after which an application is no longer supported by the company that makes it. So to start off with Windows Server 2008, this originally debuted and was available to the public February 27th of 2008. It is important to note that there are many still using Windows Server 2008, but it is actually recommended typical lifespan of a server to be about 3 to 5 years, just because of so many innovations and changes that can happen within that time frame. And often upgrading every 3 to 5 years will lead to lower service costs as well. Next up is Windows 7, which debuted on October 22nd, 2009. Windows 7 end of sales occurred on October 31st, 2013, and mainstream support ended January 13 of 2015. And a quote that we have here from the Microsoft website says, "After Windows 7 end of life, you can continue to use the operating system, but at your own risk. New computer viruses and other malware are developed all the time, and without security updates to fight them off, your data and your systems are vulnerable." And we will kind of go into a little bit more detail on that in a minute. Upon our research, we actually found out, shockingly, that even though Microsoft says it will support Windows 7 until January 2020, it began blocking older machines, such as those using Pentium 3, in June of 2018. So just be aware that Microsoft can block support for any machine at any time, and Windows 7 users need to be prepared and ahead of the game. And last but not least, Exchange 2010. Now, Exchange 2010 first debuted and was available to the general public November 9th of 2009 and was updated all the way up until April 9th, 2019. So there were pretty consistent updates for Exchange 2010. But keep in mind that there has been a new version put out every 3 years, actually pretty consecutively, even before that as well, but precisely every 3 years since 2007. So there was a new one in 2010. There has been a new one for 2013, 2016, and now 2019. So for those of you on Exchange 2010, remember that there are 3 more versions ahead of you. Next up, let's kind of dive a little bit deeper to exactly what end of life means. So, Windows end of life means the end of system updates, security patches, and support. And so the reason that you need system updates is that they repair security holes, help patch security flaws. They also help to keep your data safe and hackers out, keeps you from spreading viruses to others as well, just because of those patches and those updates, and new features and improvements to existing ones, which, you know, we all know those can be kind of fun and definitely add to our productivity a lot of the time. Next up, security patches. So for those of you unfamiliar, a security patch is a small piece of software that a company issues whenever a security flaw is uncovered. Just like the name implies, the patch covers the hole, keeping hackers from further exploiting the flaw. And so often these security patches occur without you even knowing. It's just something that these systems do when you update. A lot of people do set things to automatically update for a reason, just so that way they don't have to worry about it. So sometimes you don't even know about it. And something interesting that we found out is that often when these security holes are discovered, they're not always announced, because if they are, before all of the updates are done and these security patches are taken care of, that actually leaves a lot of systems vulnerable and a lot of machines vulnerable to these attacks, because they will exploit these holes. A really great example of that would be WannaCry ransomware that I'm sure so many of you have heard of previously, that affected so many people. And that all came through an exploit that was not patched quickly enough. And of course, the end of life also means end of support. So that means absolutely no support from Microsoft. They will tell you to upgrade. Limited support from your IT service provider, because they can only do so much with an out-of-date system before you just simply have to update. It can be very dangerous to your productivity too if you run into unforeseen issues. And next up, Kathleen is going to explain a little bit deeper as to why this affects you.
So the reason why we're letting you know that working will be different, as Ashley's already told you, there will be no support from Microsoft. So if you experience issues with a machine, your IT provider and Microsoft will not be able to help you. And so that's going to make your working experience very different, because right now you're accustomed to hopefully being able to get assistance from either your IT provider or from Microsoft. So instead, what will happen is you'll either get a standard answer from your IT person or from Microsoft, which will simply be, you need to upgrade. Another thing that you need to be aware of if you stick with Windows 7 is that other applications may not run properly on your Windows 7 machines. As we've already said, you can't call Microsoft to get assistance with that, and other application support people will tell you the same thing, that they may not be able to help you unless you upgrade to Windows 10. So as I've just been talking about, you could be experiencing issues with other applications. Those other applications may not allow you to run updates and or get new features. And if you call the other companies, they'll just tell you the same thing. You need to upgrade to Windows 10. So you're going to potentially have a lot of issues with staying on Windows 7 that are not just strictly security and patch updates, but also just the chance of things not running correctly. In fact, I recently did an assistance with a firm that upgraded to Office 365, and they had some machines still running on Windows 7 and some on Windows 10. And those that were running Windows 7 were experiencing issues with their Office 365 applications, either freezing and hanging up or running slowly. But all of those that were already upgraded to Windows 10 had pretty much no issues. In fact, the Office 365 ran very quickly and very smoothly on the upgraded Windows 10 machines.
And so now some common misconceptions and kind of some questions that we continue to hear about these products nearing end of life. To address a few, first off, it is false to assume that the system will cease to work instantly. As silly as that may sound to some people, we are actually getting those questions. It isn't going to vanish. You can still use your system. It may not function properly. And when I say it may not function properly, I mean that eventually software and application updates will not integrate with your operating system as time goes on, and that will only multiply and get worse. Microsoft will not support you, and they will tell you to upgrade, so you are out of luck if you need support from Microsoft. It is also false to assume that it is okay to wait for the deadline. As I stated earlier, June of 2018 is the earliest that we saw that some machines were already being blocked. And even though Microsoft says it will support Windows 7 until January 2020, we've already seen that you never really know. You need time to plan. You don't want to be left without support. And our biggest recommendation is to update yesterday. It is also false to assume that you need the most updated version. Is it necessary? No. Is it recommended? Yes. Usually it is suggested to use the latest and greatest, of course, but your IT company or your IT service provider should recommend the best option based on your specific needs. Every firm is unique, and your provider will know what you need based on the applications and software that you use. But of course, the newer it is, the longer you will be supported. And so now a little bit more about some keys to a successful upgrade, particularly training.
So of course I'm going to talk about training because that's my thing. But before we get into training, let's talk about what should happen first. So just to back up what Ashley's been saying about your IT provider and support people, is that you do need to start having discussions about what you need to do to upgrade and put some real plans in place. This will be figuring out what applications you have already on your existing machines. Do you have some people who have really old versions of software that may not run on Windows 10, and therefore do you need to leave one or two machines with Windows 7 still running? There's just lots of things to consider. You can't just go and flip the switch and upgrade to Windows 10. And in fact, some of the machines that you have may not be eligible to update to Windows 10. If these are old machines, or if the way the licensing was purchased, you may not be able to upgrade. You may have to actually purchase new hardware. And then something else to consider during the discussion and planning phase is that if you're going to be upgrading to Windows 10, you need to probably also be planning to upgrade Office either to 2016 or Office 365. So I don't want you to panic. Windows 10 isn't that different. So probably quite a few of you have seen Windows 10 if you have computers and you've purchased new computers at home. And one of the things that throws people off is the Start menu in Windows 10. But you should know that our integrators will change the behavior and the appearance of the Start menu, which is the part that really throws people off, to look more traditional. So for example, on my home computer, I've not messed with the Start menu, and so I have pictures and application icons that will allow me to launch or purchase Microsoft products that I have no interest in. But your Start menu on your Windows 10 machine can be built and created to function and be assisting your business. So I just wanted to let you know that upgrading to Windows 10, yes, there are some new features, but it's not really maybe as different or scary as it may seem to do the upgrade. So another thing to consider, and a positive in this Windows 7, especially end of life, is that this is a training opportunity. As I mentioned, most likely you'll need to upgrade to the newest version of Office, and whenever there's an upgrade, there are of course always new features and some changes. Just like Windows 10, the newer versions of Office are not extremely different, but there are new features and some really good features to be made aware of. So this is a great opportunity to learn not only new features, but also have an opportunity to learn existing features that you may not have ever seen. Whenever I do a new Office 2016 or 365 training, I always spend a good deal of time on Outlook. Because there are some new great features in Outlook, I always want to share those. But Many people have never had formal Outlook training, and there are many great features in Outlook, and this is a good opportunity to consider having your users trained on existing and new features in Outlook. Additionally, when you upgrade to the newest version of Office, if your firm has a macro package, that will need to be considered in the upgrade. You'll need to get in touch with your macro integrator for the new version. And inevitably, new macros not only mean new features, but another opportunity to have users trained on existing features that they didn't already know. So this can be a really great time to consider helping all the users improve their skills.
Thanks, Kathleen. And of course, if any of you found this helpful, but you'd like to dive a little deeper, or maybe you need some education and training on other systems or applications, WAMS can help. Kathleen provides trainings both remotely or in-house. These can be group sessions or one-on-one. We offer total customization, and we, like I said, can cover just about any system or application, and of course include some security training as well. So you can go ahead and email info@wamsinc.com to learn more. And if any of you are curious about what else WAMS can do to make your IT solution the best it can be, we offer managed services, cloud services, projects and consulting, security auditing and implementation, disaster recovery, and training. Of course, you can always reach us at 800-421-7151 and also at wamsinc.com. And once again, if you have any questions, you can email us at info@wamsinc.com and we will get back to you in a timely manner. Thank you again so much for joining us today and following us on this journey. And be sure to tune in for another lesson. I know we haven't done these in a while, but Kathleen is going to walk us through document comparison and track changes. And this is one you will not want to miss. So we will see you next time. Thanks again.